Most players in Chivalry 2 think they know what they're doing after playing the tutorial, but in reality, the tutorial just isn't that good. It doesn't cover some very important underlying factors within the game's mechanics that decide the tide of every duel you engage in. They spam heavies, they panic counter everything, they burn stamina for no reason. Then they lose the fight, all because of a system that just wasn't explained very well to you. High-level Chivalry 2 dueling is not about flashy drags or perfect gamble reads, it's about stamina war, wrapped around timing, conditioning, and disciplined decision-making. The players who consistently win are not the ones with the most mechanical tricks or fancy animation canceling, they're the ones who never give away any free stamina and force their opponent into bad choices. Today we cover the absolute floor and baseline, the core fundamentals that separate competent duelists from everyone else. Master these and everything else just becomes refinement. Ignore them and no amount of advanced mix-ups will save you against a mechanically competent player. Chapter 1. Core Fundamentals. These are the baseline habits that separate competent duelists from newbies. Mastering them is the minimum requirement for solid play. Tap block is your primary defensive input. Attack their stamina first to open access to their health. When their stamina is low, they must counter to avoid a disarm. When they're forced to counter, you either feint a heavy. If they don't counter the feint, then excel. Heavy less, feint less. Dodges and cancels are medium risk, low reward until fundamentals are solid, so avoid relying on them early. Don't counter for no reason. Light, unfeinted counters that don't whiff replenish stamina. Default defensive input should be riposte, light, excel. Riposte jabs, eat and attack kicks, or collide to flow health. Chapter 2. Counter versus riposte. Your core mindset should be ripostes are offensive actions and counters are defensive actions. A riposte is an attack inputted immediately after a successful parry. The block itself is the defensive action. The riposte is the offensive follow-up. Why riposte are stronger for offense? You can riposte with any attack type, unlike a normal counter which matches the opponent's attack type unless you counter feint. The best default input is riposte, light, excel of a different attack type. The reduced windup plus a different attack type and an excel gives the opponent very little reaction time. Most of the time it hits their block and drains their stamina more than you spend. When to counter? Primarily when you're low on stamina and you need to replenish it. And here's a general rule of thumb that you want to keep in the back of your mind. When you're above 50% stamina, you want to generally default to ripostes. When you're below 50% stamina, generally default to counters. Don't always have to stick to this rule strictly. It's nice to mix it up here and there, but you get the drift. Here are some extra details. Blocking causes knockback on you. Countering, especially lights, causes knockback on them. Counter heavies versus riposte heavies. Counter heavies, especially excelled, are strong because of the short stun. They force a block and drain large amounts of stamina. Riposte heavies are better for forcing a counter feint or creating disarm pressure. Both versions excel at catching gambles and are extremely strong against players who are not good at single counters. They often just block and lose heavy stamina. Final note. If you're getting dazzled by drags and taking damage, you're probably countering too much. Default more heavily to ripostes unless specifically you need the stamina. Chapter 3. Safe versus dangerous counters. One of the most important skills is knowing when it is safe to counter. Safe counters. Always take these as they are basically free stamina. Examples are heavy attacks, light drags, and feints. Dangerous counters, ones that you generally just want to hold block for and riposte off of. Slashes, stabs, and overheads. Usually excelled. If they're dragged or slower, go for the counter. These put you in a position where you must predict whether they would drag or excel into heavy. You generally want to avoid these positions as much as possible. Here are some key principles. Counter all of your opponent's safe attacks. Rarely give them safe attacks to counter. Avoid light feints, heavy attacks, and light drags yourself. Make them unpredictable. Be unpredictable when you take dangerous counters. Decide to take safe counters while dueling and bank in on the free stamina. Make your attacks scary and unpredictable so your opponent will hesitate to counter you. Advanced safe countering. Countering a light once it has entered a release phase can no longer be feinted. This requires good animation reading and movement. The reality of unsafe counters. You will sometimes still have to counter in unsafe situations, and how well you land these and how accurately you read when it is safe is still one of the single biggest skill gaps in dueling. When and how often to counter. You must counter eventually, waiting until your low stamina makes you predictable. Actively look for safe moments or mix in random counters so your opponent stays unsure when you're going to counter. Chapter 4. The Stamina War. Stamina management decides when you can go for prep or offense and when you must play defensively. Reading your opponent's stamina. Say your opponent riposts twice, then they throw a feint to heavy. They're trying to recover stamina with dangerous counters. This is a prime time to throw your own feint to heavies. Opponents try to maintain high stamina throughout the duel, not only when empty. Predict dangerous counters even when at 25 to 75% stamina. Managing your own stamina. If you have riposted multiple times and have been countered, stop feinting and focus on recovery. Throw dangerous counters unpredictably instead. Core habits. Consistently keep a rough mental track of both your own and your opponent's stamina. Always watch the UI indicators, block versus counter, after every swing. This is critical for predicting dangerous counters. Opponent counters a lot throughout the duel. Respond with frequent feint to heavies to discourage it. At the start of the duel, excel a lot. Take every safe counter and observe their riposte/counter ratio. If you're low stamina and they're high stamina, turtle and recover. Do not force an offensive. Low stamina, heavy usage. When low on stamina, occasionally heavy/excel or drag. It can be useful. The goal is to bait a counter feint so you can easily counter their next attack. Raw heavies remain viable tools in general, but their effectiveness drops against opponents who reliably single counter them. Chapter 5. Conditioning. 1. Repetition conditioning. Repeat the same move until the opponent goes on autopilot, then hit them with the mix-up. Drain their stamina while spamming light excels, preferably overhead since that's your strongest attack. This forces them into bad options, such as ripostes. They cost stamina, counter in a tight window, which is quite dangerous, pre-inputs on a counter, which limits their options and usually means they're already pretty low. Reverse conditioning. Default to light drags instead of excels. It usually works on players who do not hold block preemptively, and your mix-ups then become the light excel. Best on slower weapons with loose turn caps, but usable on faster ones with 1 to 2 hits before swinging back to the main game plan. And here's Franchise on some tips on conditioning. Go ahead.
Okay then. So when you're conditioning, if you condition with quick feint to light and you feint to light properly with good footwork, when they early counter and try to counter feint, you'll be able to like max excel them right away and it'll beat their counter feint pretty much. And if they counter feint it in time, well, they're gonna start getting conditioned to like how fast your feint is, like because they're scared of getting hit. And then eventually, if you want to hit them, you'll be able to quick feint to heavy with a drag, and you'll be able to make them fall for it by like if you continue to condition them with quick feints.
Interesting.
Eventually, you quick feint to heavy, and if they try to gamble it, you excel them, or if they try to counter feint it, you drag it out and you hit them.
Chapter 6. Proper offense and key mix-ups. Start both the excel and the drag from the same position during wind-up. Only excel or drag in the release phase. What each option beats. A feint to heavy excel beats gambles. A feint to heavy drag will beat the counter feints. Main mix-up, overhead into a heavy slash. This is the strongest offensive tool in the game. and the core of the playstyle. A slash into a light slash feint mix-up. After a slash, quick feint into a light slash and either excel beats gamble or drag and it beats a counter feint. Prefer overhead when you have riposte. A slash into a heavy overhead. Still strong, but riskier and harder to hide than overhead into a heavy slash. Raw heavies off counters. Heavies off counters can be strong when mixed properly. A well-timed heavy often forces a counter feint. One effective offensive approach is to excel a heavy off a counter, then drag it so the early animation looks like a heavy excel. This can catch people who expect a pure excel. Prefer heavy excels off counters when possible. The short stun makes it easier to force the opponents into a riposte. Good players usually single counter heavies, so use them sparingly. Overusing them makes you predictable. At the absolute highest level, strong players can simply counter raw heavies consistently. Against lower or mid-level players, they still remain quite strong. You sometimes need to feint a heavy from a riposte. If you only ever feint a heavy off a counter, you become predictable. Attentive opponents will treat your riposte as safe to counter. Conversely, if you feint a heavy from every counter, opponents will start waiting after they see your counter, expecting the feint. The preferred default is still feint a heavy off counter, because the opponent is staggered and the mix-up is harder to react to cleanly. Mix both sources, counter and riposte, so your feint to heavy pattern stays unpredictable. Two-hand versus one-hand offense. Same overall approach, but feint into lights instead of heavies. Use overhead into light slash, excel, or drag. Quick summary of principles. One-handers have a very small counter feint window, so slight telegraphing on the excel is acceptable. One-handers can gamble late feints. Use heavies off counters as a mix-up tool, not a primary attack. Excel versions give a short stun advantage, and riposte versions pressure for counter feints and disarms. Reserve pure raw heavies for moments when you need to force a reaction or recover tempo. Vary whether your feint to heavy comes from a counter or riposte so the opponent can't reliably predict when the feint is coming. Chapter 7. Supporting techniques. When to kick. Condition first with jabs, then kick. Avoid new jabbing, jabbing right after taking damage. Jab on their wind-up attack when they feint or heavy. Golden rule. React rather than guess. Active excelling. Make excels harder to counter by waiting until the weapon enters the release phase before accelerating, then using movement to land even faster. The goal is not to just attack as fast as possible. It is to force the opponent to feel like they must riposte instead of confidently countering. Fighting fast weapons. Unfeinted heavies become much more dangerous. Dragging a heavy often forces them into a counter feint, shutting down their offense, even if you deal no damage. Mix in more raw, unfeinted heavies, especially off riposte. Don't spam them, but don't be afraid of them either.
Conclusion. Conclusion. At its core, high-level Chivalry 2 Dueling is a stamina war wrapped around a reading and conditioning game. You attack stamina first so you can force counters. Once they are forced to counter, use feint to heavy mix-up to convert that pressure into health damage. You protect your own stamina by defaulting to riposte and only taking counters when they are safe or necessary. You stay unpredictable by mixing safe and dangerous counters, varying your excel and drag time, and constantly adjusting based on the stamina and habits you observed. Master the fundamentals, respect the stamina economy, and make your attacks scary and unpredictable, and force your opponents to guess. Everything else is refinement of these principles.
Yeah, you did. Good job, baby.
I am so sorry. I have a really bad habit of not reading what's there.
Consistently keep a rough mental track of both you. Okay, fucking redo. Spam excels, then switch to feint to heavies. Fuck, restart. Alright. Alright, just read the lines. Fuck. Opponent only riposte until low stamina. In turn, spam excels, then switch. Oh my god. I can't read. I can't read. Consistently keep a row. Oh fuck. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me lock in. Let me lock. Opponent only. I can't, bro. Love that so much. Okay. All right. Okay, restart.